And we are wrestling with AEW Full Gear Review. Took place last Saturday at the Kaya Forum in Englewood, California. Attendance was,
Kia Forum, Inglewood, California.
I don't know why you're mispronouncing these names. They're pretty easy to get. Um,
I mean, for anybody who has a Kia would know it's a Kia.
um, Attendance was 12,904. It is a 17,000 seat arena, so this is the most they've had in quite some time. Uh, is that just the attendance? Do you think that's just we don't get AEW that much on the West Coast, so it's a more desired ticket than if they would have done it in I don't know. Let's say Chicago.
Chicago. Yeah. Pretty much, because I can make the argument was that they've done more shows in Chicago for 3 months than they did on the whole side of California in 3 years. So yeah, it's a big fucking problem. But then again, that's what it is, demand. It's just the demand of that ticket because it's so rare. Which Tony already knew that from the last time I went to that show because they were like, "Yeah, we want a pay per view there." When they were there for yeah, what was it, Dynamite Impact, one of goddamn shows, one goddamn show. Anyway,
It was Dynamite in January, I believe.
Dynamite and Rampage. There we go. So he knows it. There's a demand there because it's very rare. But even then, 12,000. When you're thinking what uh, out on a Saturday, it's not bad. Could have been better, but that's not a bad number for the Kia Forum. The day prior to the Rams being.
I mean, yeah, close to 13,000. This is the most, you know, fans they've had in attendance for quite some time. So and it was a hot crowd. The crowd, I will say that they were into what was going on. To a point which we'll get to when we get to it. Um,
Well, considering that they ain't there that often, they got side note, goddamn building down.
um, We will. I will say that I was there, so I do have a first-hand perspective of what the crowd was doing and what they were digging, what they were not digging. Now, let's get into the matches, and we're gonna start with pre the last match on the pre-show because of the relevance it had on the main show, and that is MJF and Samoa Joe defeating the Guns. I should say the Ass Boys, Austin Gunn and Colton Gunn by submission in 9 minutes and 25 seconds to retain the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championships. Not a bad match. Never a bad thing to see Samoa Joe on your screen. But let's face it, this was more the most significant part of the show because of the injury angle done with MJF. No, Kaliko?
Pretty much what it was. I mean, face MJF is very creepy than heel MJF. So kind of got to get used to it in a sense.
Yeah. So we go.
But me going back and watching the replay, it wasn't that bad of a match. It's just that you know how when you like somebody for something so much, and then you're like, yeah, we kind of need you to go back to that.
Right.
That, that that's MJF in a nutshell.
Now, How did you feel about this being on the pre-show and not the first match on the actual show? Oh, I believe that's me.
So we were talking about MJF on the on the pre-show.
Yeah,
You remember when we had this conversation about because people talk shit about Roman Reigns being a part timer,
yeah,
but the whole point of him being a part timer is when he shows up, the shit matters,
right,
and you can get to a point where you're exhausting the audience of something. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And that's how I feel with MJF. I feel like they're kind of exhausting him too much because the fact that he's out on the pre-show, why would I care that he's out in the main event? You know what I'm saying? Or defending the title.
I know, I get it, but it's when MGF comes on the screen, it is literally their only ratings boost at this point. Except for Skype
That
Live.
is, I
Um,
mean, that's true, but the issue is that like
those ratings start
it
to go
tends
down after a while.
it t- it tends to go to a dependency. That's my problem. Where you're too dependent on it, and that's to me the biggest issue because then what's the difference between him coming out defending the tag title and him defending the heavyweight title?
Right,
You see what I'm saying? There's no specialness to it, right? Like when Ric Flair came out and defended the title, you was like, oh shit, I only get one chance to see Ric Flair. God damn it, I'm gonna make it count.
except for like now, where he's like everywhere, and he
Yeah, then
continuously
that's
has
my
been.
pro. See, you see my point? Yes, you're making my point to the T.
But what is the right way to do this? Put this match on the pre-show because and hope that it gets some people to buy the paid preview, or have it as the first match on the paid preview to get the people invested, ready to go. Um, because I personally feel like if you're not a fan of AEW, you're not. If this was on TV, maybe it would have worked. But because it's on literally YouTube, and if you're not actively looking for AEW, you're not actively going to if you're not looking for it, you're not going to find it. So, the people that were
But
going that watching the
I think
pre-show were already or AEW fans that were probably going to buy the paid preview anyway. Am I wrong
right.
here?
No, you're not wrong on that. It's just the fact that it's like they have to. But this goes back to where they have a problem where they're appeasing the base, but that's all. You got to reach beyond that at some point. Like, at what point does it go? Okay, we got to go beyond the people that. Now, granted, yes, you want to get the people, you want to keep the people who invested in you to stay invested, but I akin it to like people buying season tickets, right? The people that bought season tickets to a team sport is already committed, regardless. You need to get the people who are hesitant on committing to commit, and that's where AEW falls short to me.
Right.
And they need to figure that portion out because that's a huge portion. Like, yeah, they're playing to the floor instead of trying to play to the ceiling, if that makes sense.
No, I completely understand. Did you see the match with MJF and Samoa Joe?
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't get the luxury of being there in person. Like you. Like like some famous person, James J. But I did get to catch the replay.
How many stars you give MJF Samoa Joe versus Escos?
I mean, three is a good starter. It got people invested into the show. But then again, like I said, overexposing your champion is not a good thing, no matter how many matches you try to put him in. So,
Right. I'll go. I'll be even more generous. It was a 3-star match with everything that happened afterwards. 3.5 because they were leading to a story. Okay, so first match on the actual card, we got Stang, Debbie Allen, Adam Copeland with Ric Flair, um, the ghost of Ric Flair, I should say, versus
yes.
the Patriarchy, Kristen Cake, Luchasaurus, and Damian Wayne. Pro Diggity. Um, um, Adam Copeland won against Luchasaurus in 15 minutes and 10 seconds. Good way to start the show. High crowd. Obviously, Sting is never not going to be popular in his home state. All around, good way to start the show. Your thoughts, Peter?
I mean, the people I thought was going to win didn't win. I guess Sting lives to see another day. I thought he would be going out on his back like everyone else, but no, no, no. But hey, but I will say this: the children's choir that sang the team was the MVP.
Oh hell yeah!
Christian is for the kids, homie. I love that. He
He's
took
a
that.
loving, devoted father.
So I must say this is his best work. I will give him that much. See, if I don't give nobody else credit, I'll give him his flowers because he's on fire with that for the kids shit. It's off the wall. Um, that shit that shit's legit. I give him that.
How many stars you give this one?
Considering Sting didn't lose 3 stars.
And I will also like to say,
I really thought he was gonna take the pin.
I also will say that my streak of seeing Sting lose matches has been broken. Sting has finally won a match that I was live in person for.
Oh,
Um,
look at you, so happy, happy.
I give it I give it 3 stars as well. Next match, AEW International Championship match. Orange Cassidy defeated John Moxley in 12 minutes and 5 seconds. Luckily it was not long. It was not very offensive. It somewhat worked for me. What say you, Kalika?
I mean, I Mox is bleeding. That's a given.
Yeah,
Although I did this like change how Orange Cassidy. Remember, to me, this is like Orange Cassidy's like breakout from like being lazy. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Am I, you and it reminds me of, and I'm just gonna go back. You remember when the Street Profits? Everybody thought that they were just some gimmicky motherfuckers until they beat up some motherfuckers in the parking lot, and I was like, yeah, that means they mean business.
yeah.
That's what I got with Orange Cassidy with this match. But I already told you, to me, it kind of changed for me with him when he did that big bump, like when Moxley was coming up the ring and Orange Cassidy, who's usually cool as a fan, just like went out of his way to knock Moxley the fuck off his path. So that's why I was like, oh, that's different. That's something new. So it made me pay attention because it was out of his element, and he went out of his element and beat Moxley.
How many stars do you give this one?
Wasn't that long? 2.5. I mean, granted, for all that I just said about Cassidy, they should have just made it more storytelling esque. But
Yeah, if you're looking for stories, you're not going to get it from a guy that eats paper. I
true,
and I also agree, 2.5 is a fair assessment. Um, we got the AEW Women's World Championship match, timeless Tony Storm with Luthor. They defeated, or she defeated, who are you, Sheeta, in 10 minutes and 25 seconds. By, and I am not making this up, loading her ass with steel to beat Hikaru Suga. How did you feel about Tony Storm loading her ass?
who doesn't want Tony Storm loading her ass? But that's a whole nother topic for another day. At least one match I got right. Jesus. Uh, well, no. I put like we got the MJF part right, but at least this is the beginning of the streak. So, um, yeah, I mean, I kind of figured it was her time. She was over with the gimmick, and you know how it is in AEW. If you're over with a gimmick, you're gonna get a title.
Even if the referee is literally staring at your ass with a piece of metal sticking out of it.
I mean, hey, you got to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. We're in America, sir. You have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt.
I mean, it was it was pretty reasonable that it was, sticking out of her uh her ring
But
gear.
butt
It was
cheeks,
literally
yeah,
exposed.
her butt cheeks.
Yeah,
You have to prove that she used it, sir.
I'll go 3 stars. What say you?
Yeah, it was three. It was definitely a 3 star. But Tony got the win, so that's all that matters, right? Right.
Now we have a fatal four-way tag team a ladder match for the tag team championships. I was not aware that this was a ladder match when it happened, um, or when we reviewed it last week. Um, but Ricky Stark, Big Bill, they defeated Falcon and Grove Noble, Rush and Duelistico, Jose the Assistant, Tristan Vance, FTR, Kings of the Black Throne, Milwaukee Black, and Brody Burger King. Um,
Did you call him Milwaukee Black? No, you.
not Milwaukee, Milwaukee.
Oh, I thought you were talking about like Milwaukee's best, like the beer. But that, nevertheless, that
As somebody that was at this show that saw this match live, I'm not gonna lie. It was a little hard to figure out who was who doing what. Simply because almost everybody was wearing white. And the only person that you could audibly visibly make out was Brody King because the man is fucking huge. Um, that being said, nothing significant happened in this match. It wasn't necessarily a memorable ladder match. It was just a ladder match that had people in it. What say you, Kaliko?
the same. I mean, what was the difference between that and doing a fatal 4-way regular tag match? Except they just wanted violence, and we know how the AEW crowd loves violence, as we will preview that later on.
Yes, we will. Right.
So, with that being said,
Kaliko, how many stars?
2.5.
I feel you're even being generous with that. 2 stars, honestly.
Really?
Yeah. We got a 3-way for the AEW That Bitch Show Championship. Um,
Damn, that bitch.
well, that's what
Why can't TBS mean? How come TBS can't mean the big show?
because there's already a big show.
That's what I'm saying. In his honor.
We got Julia Hart defeating Chris Statlander and Sky Blue to become the new TBS champion in 11 minutes and 20 seconds. Um, I like Julia Hart, and I thought the way that the match ended was clever. It was a heelless way to win the match. Um, was it the most prettiest of matches? Probably not, but at the end of the day, I think the right person won. What say you, Kalika?
Really, because we both thought Sky Blue's big ass was winning.
Yeah,
We did not see Julia Hart winning out the blue. Pun intended. Uh, so kudos to her. First reign. It feels like Statlander's going to get the title back soon, though.
probably. So hopefully Hart will do something with it before they decided to pull it off. Though it's not going to be an empty run.
Well, we know AEW loves empty runs.
But how many stars you give this one?
Mm, kind of clunky, but 2.5.
Oh, yeah, I'll agree with that. All right, that brings us to Texas Death Match. We got Texas Death Match in Los Angeles between somebody from Virginia and Washington. Apparently, that means it's more of a last man standing match rules. Nobody told me that. Don't think they told anybody that, but Swerve Strickland defeated Hangman Page uh, by knockout, apparently, and yeah, this match kind of felt like being in the Roman Colosseum, honestly, what the crowd was just blood hungry maniacs. Um, Prince Nana came out. I swerve when I drive. The fucking whole crowd was explosive for that shit. Everybody loved Nana. Everybody loved the song. Everybody was dancing. Swerve got literally the biggest pop out of anybody on that show, and that includes MJF. And I don't think maybe for a second, people were always behind Swerve. Everybody wanted Swerve the whole long way, which is a little interesting and a little funny considering that he's the guy that broke into the babyface's house and you know tortured his son, his child, in a crib. Um, that being said, could you really call this a match? This is it was more of mutilating each other back and forward. I don't believe there was even, actual moves given to each other. It was just one ridiculously dangerous high spot of to the next. But what say you, Cooper?
Let me start by saying that Magic Johnson would have been nervous as much blood is popping off at this match. But um, and welcome to 2023, where you can do anything that you want, but as long as your interest songs got a hella hook, they are right behind you. Uh, Take notes, MJF. Might want to change your theme music. Uh, but yeah, it just seemed mauling. It, but that was the whole point of it. I mean, Texas Deathmatch. It wasn't. The premise to the story was the point that it kind of went beyond a match, and it's just about them going to the depths of below to figure out who's willing to do what to win. At least that's the premise I got, because that's what Swerve himself said. Was like, he was like, "Oh, Hangman ain't coming out with all these crazy bedazzles and da da da." He doesn't know he's in hell with me. He thinks he's coming. He thinks he's going down with me, not realizing he's there with me. And this match kind of showed that, right? That was the whole purpose of the match to me, is to show that Swerve was already in his head by making him do things out of his element. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So he made him
So
drink his blood.
that was the point. Like how that's the point. I mean, Hangman signed his element. He had, because it got personal, and usually the storylines was supposed to be, when it gets personal, you're willing to do whatever it takes to get to the point. Now, him drinking blood like he's Magic Johnson drinking hose in the 80s is a whole different story. But but I get the premise.
And I did
People
also,
are saying that this,
yeah, continue.
and people are saying this is like the greatest death match ever type thing. I will say, if you understood the premise, yes. But if you're a casual looking at that, you're like, what's the difference between this and MMA? Because at least in MMA, I know it's real.
What do you have to say the R word?
Well,
Um,
well, that's what I'm saying. But you have to, and that's the thing. People are looking at it from the wrestling fans' eyes, which is, yeah, you can do that. But you also have to look at it from a person who's like, oh, random on a Saturday night, let me give this a shot.
what? Well, you
And
know,
they're looking at that like, what the fuck?
you are right on one point. On one point, the story was there, and if you really look closely at the match, there are things that do make sense. There was somewhat of psychology to it. You know, it had elements that could have made it a great match. The Hangman gets his revenge. Um, Nana pulls Swerve out of the ring. He saves his guy. What is his name? Cage. Brian Cage. Helps the bad guy. Page gets his revenge on Nana. Which I didn't like. I didn't like seeing Nana get killed. Um, and at the end of the day, the bad guy won because the odds were in his favor. But, he got fucked up at the end of it as well. All of that is great storytelling, but it gets covered up with a lot of unnecessary shit. And they could have had an even better match. They could have had a 5-star match. if they didn't throw the kitchen sink at each other. Less is more in pro wrestling. And, even like the finish of the match, he hit him with the brick. And he got up after getting hit by a brick. Like, no, that's not. If if that was like a legit brick, Hangman wouldn't have gotten up in 10 seconds. He would have been dead. Um, and that was, but he was able to get up. And then the reason the match ended is because he choked him with a chain. He hung him. He hung Hangman. Uh, and in all honesty, that was a little bit of a flat ending. But if he it just ended with the brick spot, it would have been fine. The staples was unnecessary. The glass was unnecessary. A lot of what they did was unnecessary. It could have been a hell of a lot better if they did a hell of a lot less. But like I said, there was elements that did make it a good match. It was just covered up by the Gaga.
It was covered up by the blood spot because I think the spot where Adam is drinking his blood, kind of, because that turns it off, right?
I mean, it's
Because
disgusting.
people, it, it that plus we're still kind of in the COVID era, so it's very, very unsafe to say the least. To say the least. Um, but yeah, I mean, and that's what I'm saying. Where common sense would tell you, if someone pops you a brick, you're you're done down for the count.
And
So yeah, it should have ended with the brick spot.
drinking.
I'm in full agreement there.
You have to think Moxley was thinking, fuck, I thought about drinking blood.
Somewhere Gangrel's like, yes.
I was like, I've been doing this shit for 20 fucking years. Nobody
And
cared.
you know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't get a viral tweet from it. And I've been doing this shit coming out of fire. A random cowboy does it and gets a million views.
But seriously, wrestling, pro wrestling aside, that's not a good idea to drink somebody's blood.
I told you Magic Johnson is even over there cringing.
How many stars do you give this one?
So I mean, it's crazy. It, it's bananas.
How many stars do you give the match?
I feel like I have to rate this on 2 points because the match itself was like 3.5. The premise is a 4 because I get where they were trying to go. It's just that in going low, there are some things where you think if I hit you with this, you're dead, and that's where it should have ended. So it's a 2 scale system. If you're looking at the premise and the story, a 4. If you're looking at the match itself, about a 3.5.
So 3 1/4, 3 7/5.
I guess I can meet it in the middle. Yeah. I mean, the crowd kind of made it happen because they were bloodthirsty. But I mean,
The crowd definitely made that match. Um, I'll give it that extra quarter, 4 stars. It was the match everybody wanted to see, and it, I guess, it delivered what people wanted to see. And obviously Strickland comes out of it a bigger star. I don't necessarily know what Hangman Page gets out of it, other than salmonella or whatever you know blood-borne diseases you could get from drinking a man's blood.
I know. I'm like, do they have to take tests after that?
I would hope. I
I feel like it would have to be like a mandatory pre, during, and post when you're gonna do a spot like that.
Now that brings us to the next match, the Golden Jet Skis. Chris Jericho and Twinkle Toes McFinglefuck. They defeated the Young Bucks, the middle-aged Bucks, Matt and Nick, in 20 minutes and 45 seconds. They got the Young Bucks title opportunity. We talked about the Bucks earlier, you know, becoming heels, trying to capture glory days that are maybe not as glorious as they may be have been. Um, this match didn't need to be on this card. This could have been a pre-show match, honestly. Nobody was really into it. The crowd was dead after Swerve and Hangman, and about
Pretty much.
halfway through it, I was tired. I was ready to get to the main event so I could go home. So this match really, it had no business being here, and it certainly had no business being 20 minutes long.
Well, how are you gonna follow someone drinking blood? Even the Bucks are like, wait a minute, I gotta follow that shit. So I mean, it's just yeah. It's that bad match. It's like what was that? It was one match, and then you're like, I gotta follow that shit. And it's like, nah.
Yeah.
But I mean, it did become the filler to get to the main event, I guess.
Well, how many stars do you give this one?
I mean, it wasn't the best. So a two?
I agree with that.
I mean, it wasn't their best.
No, it certainly wasn't. That brings us to our main event. Adam Cole, baby, versus Jay White for the AEW World Championship match. The winner of the match, MJF, because he came to defend his champion, because he's just that great of a fucking guy. And 29 minutes and 45 seconds. Um, Max got a pop. People were digging him coming out in the ambulance. But by the end, I don't even want to say halfway through, a quarter of the way in, people were dead tired. People wanted to go home, honestly. They did not want to be there any longer. And they just kind of wanted it to end. I kind of felt the same. Um, when you have, when your last three matches are a half hour each, it becomes a bit of a chore to be there. And this match could have been half the time and still do more than it needed to for the storyline purposes. But it's AEW and they overdo everything. What say you, Kaliko?
So this show do like have these long ass matches.
Right, and he wrestled 10 minutes at the beginning of the show as well.
But that's what I'm telling you. Overusage of a star. Your top star should not be working 15 minutes, especially if he's your champion.
Right.
It doesn't make sense to me. Does not. Doth not make sense to me. So, I mean, they have to figure something out with that because it's not gonna help them.
How many stars do you give this one?
Considering there was a gang of confusion, 2.5. I mean, because it went from Adam Cole fighting, and then JF came to fight, and it's like, okay, did they need to restart the match? How did that work?
Right.
It was just confusing. Because if the match already started, why the hell is MJF coming out to finish the match?
And how was he able to walk a 30-minute match with a broken leg? Um, More or less Adam Cole walking a match when he has a broken ankle, and how was he allowed to take Max's place, but was not able to actually defend the championships that he actually holds with Max instead of Samoa Joe? All questions.
See, that's my point. It's a lot. So let me get this straight. He couldn't defend the tag title because he was hurt, but he could come in and defend the heavyweight title because his boy's hurt.
Yeah,
Yeah, make it make sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
I think we need to call this AEW logic. Right,
Yeah, I couldn't put that past you. Yeah, AEW logic.
right. You gave it 2.5 stars, right?
Yeah, because it was just a bunch of confusion. At that point, it was just confusion.
Yeah, I agree. 2.5. Alright, this show as a whole, thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle.
Mm, was it their worst show? No. Was it their best show? Hell no. So in the middle, because mainly because the crowd kind of carried that show. Considering the fact they're like, oh, we got a pay per view on the West Coast, and the fact that they were just blood hungry for Swerve. I mean, honestly, that we could all agree that was the match of the night, right? Swerve was the man of the night.
Yep.
That match was the match of the night,
Mm-hmm.
and so MJF kind of becomes an afterthought,
Right. Nobody was talking about MJF at the end of the night.
which is not really good considering that's your champion.
Right.
Remember when we had CM Punk as champion and they kept putting John Cena in the main event?
Yeah.
And people complained about it, but no one's really complaining about. Okay, never mind. I'm not gonna go there. See, might start a fight.
Now, if this show ended with Swerve and Hangman, and that was literally the last match, this would have been a thumbs up show. I would have gave it 2 thumbs up. Considering that there was 2 long-ass matches that were predictable afterwards, that makes this a thumbs in the middle show. Because it was the show literally flatlined after Swerve and Hangman. They don't
Pretty
know.
much.
They do not know
The,
when to stop.
the air went out of that arena after, so because all the energy was in that match.
Right. All right. That will conclude our coverage of AEW Full Gear.
Hey, folks, this is the Colossal Mike Law, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment. Enjoy the show. Support these guys. We appreciate it very much. We'll see you at ringside.